What is up, guys? Welcome to another Monday. As I promised, I would be live in the group on Monday, and we are going to be covering more brick and mortar business stuff. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, because we are doing a Q&A on this, I'm going to pop open this live stream on my phone, and so I can see your guys' comments as they're coming in. So again, if you guys have any questions, right, this is a Q&A, ask me anything. If you have any questions about brick and mortar business or anything, leads, how to max out your gym, whatever it may be, just go ahead and drop them in the comments of this video that you are watching, and then I will be able to answer them in real time. Let me pull it up quick. All right, and here we are. So perfect. Got it. All right, guys. So let's start off, and not just the comments, but what we're also doing is we're going to be talking about the 5 rules, and I dropped that in the description of the video. The 5 rules that I have for growing your business. And I've always I've grown a few businesses now, and I've always found that if I stick by these top 5 things, typically it is much easier to be successful. So the majority of small businesses fail. They do not make it past year 1, and it's for quite a few different reasons. But I think that if you stick to these 5, it will be that much easier to be successful with it. Let me turn off my email quick. Okay, so let's get to the questions first. Okay, so the first question, before we get into the top 5 things, is have you ever done, and this is from Dan, have you ever done pay-as-you-go boot camp type sessions, then upsell them to a membership that includes fitness, nutrition, and accountability? Yes, I have done that, right? But I did not like it, okay? So I've done that, it was a long time ago, but essentially it's like, hey, look, do you want to try some of my classes? And if so, you can drop in, you can pay me this amount, you can buy a pack, you can buy, that's what you're talking about. The problem with that is you are selling an experience to them. If they're doing a pay-as-you-go boot camp class, right? You're not going to be upselling them into the same level of service that they're experiencing. So it's going to be a harder conversion to get, and also they may not be your ideal clients, because the people that do not want to do fitness, nutrition, and accountability when you first present it to them, which I highly recommend you always present it to them first, right? And if they say no, can I just buy a 10-pack of classes? Or I'm sure a lot of people on this call have had that conversation, right? If they say no, can I just buy a 10? Are they really there for the same reasons that you had become a coach? Right. And so if they hear everything you have to say and they're like, nah, they want to buy an experience, sort of like a yoga class or a spin studio or something like that. They want to just do the workout to feel like they're doing something good. You've explained to them how important fitness, nutrition, and accountability is, but they didn't want to do that. So then to re-upsell them, it's possible to convert them, right? So you're saying, hey, get them into something easy, cheap, and then resell them into something more expensive. I'd argue that whole process is more time consuming and more difficult to be successful with it than if you were to just target your ideal client in the first place, right? Or when somebody says, can I just buy X, Y, or Z? You explain no, because that's not how we do things, right? But what you can do is buy this, the thing that we do really well, and you'll receive all of these benefits, right? Because you could end up spinning your wheels. So I'm not saying that you won't be successful doing that, because you absolutely will get people to convert. I just think that it will be at a lower rate than if you put your energy towards finding your ideal clients in the first place, right? So hopefully that answers your question. The next question I got was how to get my Facebook leads to confirm and show. Okay, so you're getting leads off of Facebook, good and bad, right? What are the good things about getting leads off Facebook? Typically, a lot of them. You can get a lot of leads off Facebook for pretty cheap if you know what you're doing. What's the bad thing? They don't know, like, and trust you, right? Especially if you are not having them in a Facebook group, or they have booked an appointment relatively quickly after seeing your ad, right? So when somebody doesn't know, like, and trust you, it's very easy for them to blow off that conversation or that meeting, that appointment, right? So how do you get them to do that? Well, The easiest way is, number one, to collect information like their name, phone number, and email, particularly phone number. And then the easiest way is to message them right away, text message them, right? So if you got them off of Facebook, you may have their Facebook information, right? Especially if they're in a group of yours. But when you send them a message on Facebook, it's going to end up in their message request folders, right? Because they are not a friend of yours, or probably haven't accepted your friend request, or whatever it may be, right? And so they're never seeing that message to interact with you. If they don't know, like, and trust you, the likelihood of them just showing up randomly is a lot lower. Not that people won't keep appointments; they absolutely will keep appointments, right? But a lot of people won't, right? So, but if you have a conversation with them first, they are 10 times more likely to show up for the appointment or tell you, I'm not interested. But either way, you're not going to get no-showed, right? Or not likely to get no-showed if you're already talking with them about that appointment. So we've identified that it's hard to have that conversation with them via Facebook Messenger because they probably never even checked their message request folder and they don't even know you messaged them, right? So, but you collected, because you're running ads, you said leads on Facebook, you collected information from them, use that, right? Send them a text message. Hey, Susie, this is Coach Jake. You just signed up for my free transformation program trial. I'm going to be your coach. So I just wanted to introduce myself. And oh, by the way, so we can make the most of our time together tomorrow or whenever it is. What's your main goals? You know, what are you looking to do? Right. And as soon as you ask that question, if they respond to you, that's when you start talking with them and building that know, like, and trust relationship, and they will be much more likely to show up. So not just the appointment reminder, right? Because appointment reminders are great and they're very needed, but they don't require, typically, they do not require a response back. So it's not a conversation. It's a reminder. It's not a conversation. You want to try to have a conversation with every single one of your leads before they come in, right? If you can't get anything back from them, and we do this in our appointment reminders as well. Hey, just want to let you know that your appointment is in 24 hours. If you could please shoot me a Y to confirm that you can still make it. That way I can, set aside 15 minutes after if we talk a little bit longer or something like that. All you're trying to do is get an affirmative message back from them, right? Same thing with a 1 hour appointment reminder. Hey, Susie, your appointment's in an hour. If you could just shoot me back a Y. So when you get here, or send me here when you get here. Sometimes I'm out on the gym floor, or I might be in my office. I just want to know that you're here. That way I can be waiting at the front desk for you, right? Or something like that. So that's what I would do to get your Facebook leads to show up. Is you need to start that conversation with them somehow. If you attempt multiple, you could even, if you're really not getting anything back from them, you can say, hey, Susie, listen, I got to hear back from you before our appointment to save your spot. We're getting really full now, or we're getting booked up, and it's likely that you may not be an ideal candidate if you can't answer what your goals are, right? I talk to my clients a lot over text, right? And so if you're not comfortable, like if you can't talk with me on text message, it's likely that you might not be the best fit. All I need is a quick breakdown of what your goals are, so I can be prepared. I love to be prepared as a coach, right? If they do not get back to you, if they won't message you back, then I'd argue that you can reopen that time slot, okay? And will two people maybe show up at the same time? Maybe, right? But I'd reopen it, because that one person is probably going to no-show you, and at least you're not wasting your time, right? Because if you have reached out to them about their goals and you have given them that stern, like, hey, I like to talk with all of my clients, assume the sale, right? Assume they're doing in your case, Jake, because I know you, they're doing a transformation program trial, right? They assume it's free. So assume they're getting started. Just make it a prerequisite of meeting with you to get them started. Is you want to be prepared as a coach. So what are your goals? If you ask them that, if you give them the little, like, hey, I need to speak with everybody before they meet with me, it's part of our pre-meeting assignment, right? If you're giving them something for free, there's nothing wrong with asking them to do something in exchange for getting that for free. I will absolutely give you this free 7-day trial. But in exchange, all I need for you to do is this pre-call assignment which is answer these 3 questions, right? Super easy. If they do not give you goals, they won't do that pre-call assignment, or they don't send you a why or a I'm here, for the 24 and 1 hour reminder, like you've tried to get information out of them 4 times, open that spot back up, because they're not coming. Okay. Who doesn't read their phone and respond? They're not coming, right? So at least you're not going to get no-showed, right? It doesn't make them show up, but it saves your time, right? And so hopefully that's a long-winded answer to how to get people showed up. The last thing you can do is give them a door prize. I'm not a huge fan of this, because it sends the wrong, it can send the wrong message, that like somebody would just be interested in coming. Like, as an example, we used to give out fitness trackers because they're only like $10 on Amazon for cheap ones. And for us, it made sense to pay an extra $10 to get somebody started on our free transformation program trial. Number one, it's a micro commitment. So we're giving them something and they feel indebted to us, even if it's on a micro level. So continuing that transformation program would be that much more likely, because we've already given them something physical, right? Second of all, we use it in our program. We'd like to track activity levels. We'd like to track steps, and it helps us deliver a better product, right? A better service. So we would give it to everybody. We'd say, hey, what color do you want, or what size do you want, or whatever it may be. And they'd be like, oh, I'll take this. And, the likelihood, if they answer that question, they would show up. Right. So it's a door prize. Even if they don't want to continue with us, they get this thing, right? And we would just eat the cost of $10. We would add it to our cost to acquire a customer. So you could use a door prize. You can use door prizes that don't cost you anything. You could say, hey, I'm going to, after our appointment, hey, Susie, our appointment is in 24 hours. What kind of nutrition do you like? Is it plant-based only? Is it, do you like certain kinds of protein? I'm going to send you a recipe book after our appointment to get you started quick, right? So that way Susie knows, as long as she shows up, she's going to get a free recipe book. That's a door prize. If she doesn't show up, then you're not going to email her anything. So some people may come to get that thing. So they'll tell you no in person. They'll be like, you know what? I'm not really interested or whatever, but can I get the recipe book? And I'll follow that for the next couple of weeks. And if it doesn't work, then I'll reach back out to you. That conversation is exactly why I don't do it anymore, because some people are like, well, I'm just going to get started with this thing. And if it doesn't work, then I'll reach back out to you. So, there's pros and cons to everything. If you're having a really hard time with getting anybody to show up, then try the door prize. Okay. Let's look at the next question. The next question. What is the best way to manage space at the gym? Okay, so good thing that you asked this. Well, before I had a big gym, which I do now, I had a very small gym, right? Very small area. And I'm of the belief that a good trainer can give an amazing workout with very minimal space and very minimal equipment. I've done it, right? For years, I've done it. And so if you're limited on space, the first thing that I would do is take a look at how you are programming your workouts, because that will be the number one differentiator between how much space each client has, right? And how close they are to someone else. So if you're at like 1,000 square feet or less, you almost always want to have your workout set up with a partner or a small group, right? Because you have such a small amount of space that you could easily set up a workout where, let's say there's 8 exercises, right? Well, if you have one person at each exercise station, like that's taking up, that's going to take up the whole room to have 8 exercises in 1,000 square feet, right? So then you're maxed out at what, eight people in a class, right? But what if you had, let's just say, one exercise like area that like focused on the chest, right? And you had a box set up and you had some dumbbells and a bench set up, right? And you had 2 people there and you programmed it to where they were doing 30 to 60 seconds on, then they switch, right? Almost like a superset, as an example. Well, now you could put 2 people at each 8 stations and now you're at 16. Right? Now you can fit 16 people in your class. Well, you can continually do that. Maybe at that same station, you could put something else for chest. Maybe like a a Bosu ball or a med ball where they would do something, with that. Now that you could program it to where they're doing 45 seconds, 45 seconds, 45 seconds, and they're rotating, right? But then you have 3 people in that same area against your 8 stations, you're at 24 people that you can have in your class, right? And so that is probably the best way to save space, is to change your programming. Now, if you're very diehard and you use barbells a lot and you use, you do double unders with jump ropes or speed ropes, and you're very specific on how you program, then you just have to understand, number one, because of your beliefs around the programming and exercise, you will need a bigger space if you want to make money at a brick and mortar gym, right? You're not going to make a very large amount of money if you literally can only train 4 to 8 people in an hour, right? Square footage always plays a role in how much profit you can extract out of your business when you're in a service-based business, right? Because if you were to break it down by square feet, how much money can you make per square foot per hour at your business, right? And so at my gym, I understood that when I was able to move and rebuild. And so I have 4 separate, and the gym owners there's a lot of gym owners in this group that have been to my space. There's 4 separate training areas in my gym. So we're able, if we needed to, we can service 100 members at the same time doing classes or private training, right? Because they're broken into separate areas that they can train in, which allows us to maximize the amount of square footage. I broke them up into separate rooms with their own volume control, their own radios, music, coaches, all of that stuff. I could have made it one big area for the same square footage, right? But what does that do? It doesn't allow me to give them a different experience. Nobody wants to be in a class with 100 people. And I couldn't coach a kickboxing class at the same time as a boot camp, at the same time as a yoga class, right? Along with private training. What would you do with the music? Obviously the boot camp music can't be the same as the yoga music. And typically coaches will turn down the music when they want to say something. So what, the kickboxing instructor wants to say something, so they turn down the music for everyone else that's training? It wouldn't make sense. So you would section it off, if you have a bigger gym, into smaller areas, where then you can run different styles of training in those smaller areas for the exact same square footage, but to give them a different experience. And then break the bigger groups up into smaller groups. So that's how I would deal with space if I had a larger gym and I wanted to max out how many people can train at once. Or if I had a smaller gym, I would either break my beliefs around what kind of programming people actually need, right? Do they absolutely need to do the programming that takes up a lot of space? And if your answer is no, and you were able to break your beliefs, well, then you can start using some of the methods that I recommended, where you're doubling or tripling up people at a certain area to maximize on space. Or if your answer is nope, I have to do it this certain way, well, then you have to look for a new location that allows you more square footage for around the same amount of area. And I would look at industrial space, right? So if you really need a lot of space, I would definitely look at industrial space, where you're at like $4 to $5 per square foot, because then you can obviously train and do whatever you want there. Okay, next question. Hopefully that answers your question. Next question. How long is the initial agreement with you guys? Okay, so he's talking about FitBiz University. So FitBiz, we have our flagship program called the Perfect Gym Model, and there is no term for that program. It's not, you don't pay monthly. You don't sign a 12-month program or 24. It doesn't work like that. It is a program that is designed to get you from where you're at now to your goals. However long it takes you to get there, it is up to you and how fast you execute it. And but our program is one singular program, and it has one price, right? And because I'm a big fan of look, we have a lot of trade secrets, and we have experts that help you coach. They coach you every single week throughout our program. And we, all of us, my whole team, including myself, work on your business to hit your goals, right? And you are following our program as you do that. But I'm a big fan of Like once you do our program, once you've read our book and you completely understand like what our game is and how it works, I don't feel like I should continually charge you every single month for having had that information. It's just up to you to go execute it, and we'll help you every step of the way. But if I update my program, if I update my course, if I come out with new stuff, new plays, you get all of that, right? Without having to continually pay me, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to continue. Like if I read a book, 4 Hour Work Week, right, that had a huge impact, and I learned so much about it, and it changed how I do things. I don't got to keep paying the author, Tim Ferriss, residual fee every month because he changed my life and gave me this amazing information. Like that doesn't make any sense. Well, it's the same thing, except you need more than a book. You need an actual program to follow, which is what the Perfect Gym model is. But after you execute that, after you do that, you can continually pick that book up or go back into the course, go back into the program. You'll stay in our private Facebook group, all of that stuff without having to continually pay me because you've already read the book, right? So hopefully that makes sense as to how we do things. We do not have any monthly or month to month or 12-month, or there is no recurring fee to work with FitBiz. So I think that was the last question that I had. Let me check and see if there's any more. Oh, okay. Third it down. Nope. I appreciate the kind words, Dan. Cool. All right, let's get into the next topic, guys. And this is going to be the 5 rules for growing your business. And I'll start at number 5 and work my way to number 1. Okay, so the number 1 rule, number 5 rule. I just said that. We'll start at number 5 and we'll work to number 1. Number 5, consistency is king. Okay, so before you start trying to scale your business, right? There's 2 things that every business, any business in the world, needs to run successfully: people and processes. Okay, processes is what I'm talking about when I'm saying consistency is king. Okay, so you started a business because you think that you have this thing that people want, right? Like Chipotle, they started a business because they think that the way that they make burritos and how you get to put your toppings on it and pick what you want, they think that that the market doesn't have that, and people will definitely pay them for that thing, right? So before you look at growing into 10 different, Chipotles or ramping it up to service 10,000 customers per day, you need to make sure your processes are on point, right? What does that mean? Well, how you do things at your business is always consistent, because the last thing that you want is to deliver a different experience to different customers and then not know why your business isn't working, right? So we'll get to people, which people is very, very important, right? But you as the entrepreneur, as the owner, you need to make sure that you know how every single thing in your business works, how it's supposed to work, what the process looks like, so then you can teach it to other people, right? That's the whole key. We're talking about growing and scaling your business. You are eventually going to need to take everything that you know and teach it to somebody else, right? And so make sure consistency. Like imagine if you went to Chipotle, right? And they did stuff differently every time that you went in. You'd be like, what the hell? So like first they would start off with, do you want wheat or flour tortilla, right? And you're like, flour. But then the next time you went in, they're like, hey, what kind of meat do you want with this thing? We got, bacon, and we have, chicken. And you're like, where's the steak? Oh, no, we don't. We only do steak sometimes. We didn't order it this week. You'd be like, what? Right? There's no consistency there, right? With the experience that is, right? So when you translate that to the brick and mortar industry, people need to know what they're getting every single time they pay you. And if you continually change that, they're going to feel really uncomfortable about giving you their money, man. And so it's like, if you decide you want to do private coaching or large group or semi-private or whatever, and this is how you do things, right? Obviously test it to make sure it's what people want, but then stick with it and get very good at it. The last thing you want to do is continually change your services, right? So then people are never getting what they signed up for. Some of you guys did like the 6-week challenge, right? I don't know about you, but when I did the 6 week challenge, uh, like the people that came in and bought that, they really wanted that thing. And then when I tried to resell them into a different thing, that is what was more, I was more passionate about, like actual transformations, they were super hesitant to doing that because it wasn't consistent with what they originally bought, and they didn't it's not what they signed up for. It's like if you went to Chipotle and bought a burrito, but as soon as you started eating burritos there, the next time you came in, all they wanted to do was upsell you on nachos, and you're like, I don't really want those though. I came here because you have amazing burritos, right? I don't want, I get what you're saying, but I don't want that thing, right? And you're trying to force it down somebody. Well, it's the same thing with you. If you guys are doing a program that's unnatural or isn't really your thing, and you keep changing it, it's going to be really hard to keep your customers. So I'd argue that with any business, right, figure out what you think people want and get very, very good at that thing, and don't change it. Just keep getting better and better at it, and you will keep members for so much longer because you're not changing what they want, what they originally came in and paid for, and you're getting better at doing it. And when they refer somebody else, which referrals are huge in any service-based industry, the person that they're referring is getting the exact same thing as what the person that referred them is getting, right? So they can say, oh yeah, you'll love this because they do this and they do this on Mondays, there's weigh-ins and you follow this kind of nutrition, which I love. And it's very, very consistent. So they can feel comfortable. Imagine if they referred somebody and then their friend said, hey, yeah, I went to the gym but they're not what you signed up for. They're not doing that anymore. I don't even do nutrition. In fact, mine was a little bit cheaper, but I only have this, this, and this. And it's not really like what you were saying. And it's like, oh, sorry. So consistency is king. And once you as the owner get very, very good at that, you need to be able to teach that to somebody, the exact processes, how you onboard somebody, how that sales conversation goes. If you have a sales conversation, it should be the same every single time, whether you're following a script or you use like fat and muscle props. Every single aspect of your business should have a process around it. Every single aspect, right? Even to how you clean the gym should have a process. All of it should have processes because you're going to need to teach that to somebody else, right? At some point. So that's number 5. Number 4, you can't do it yourself. Assemble a team of all-stars. Okay. So like I said, people and processes. Every business is made up of people and processes, from tiny ones to large ones like Apple, right? Apple just has more people following more processes, but it's the same principles. So you've identified these amazing processes that you've done as an entrepreneur, and you know, like the back of your hand, right? Now you have to teach them so you can focus on more important things, okay? Like as an example, when you get started with a business, the entrepreneur needs to do everything themselves because that is how they learn the business intimately and can really understand what the customers like, what they don't like, and turn their dream into a reality. Well, at some point, it's going to be counterproductive for you to continue doing all of those things yourself because you'll need to get to a different level where you need to focus on other things to continually grow your business. Like at some point, you're going to need to focus on getting good at marketing and getting good at sales and getting good at networking with your community and all of these things, right? It's just part of growing your business. You're going to, after 30, 40 clients, you're no longer able to continually bring on any more clients if you're training all day long. You can't, so your business can't grow. You're stuck at this level. Now, if you decide like, dude, I still want to grow. Okay. Well, now you have to train somebody to do these certain processes to get your time back as the entrepreneur, to put it towards things that will help you continue to grow. Okay, so what are some of those processes that you've identified that you can pass off, right? Coaching is one of them. Maybe you don't like sales, so selling. Maybe doing admin work. Maybe you hate processing, payments and invoicing, and you hate all of that stuff. So you're going to assign that to somebody. Those are all processes that you can pass off to somebody else. Another name for processes is systems. Like, what are your systems at your gym, right? Well, what we're talking about at step 4 is the right people. Imagine if you have amazing processes and you spent all the time in the world getting them dialed in and perfect, and you gave it to the wrong person. A person that maybe does not share your core values. They don't share your beliefs. They do not care about your mission or helping people get in shape. There's plenty of people like that. You could easily put out an ad for sales at your gym and have a lot of people apply that think they have sold stuff like, hey, I used to sell cell phones, I'm good at selling, right? And you interview them and you're like, hey, you have the job, and they don't give a shit about people, and they don't care if Mrs. Jones loses 20 pounds before her wedding. They just don't. They just want to get a commission check, right? That is the wrong person for that process. Did you fill somebody? Did you delegate that process? Yes. To the wrong person? Yes. Right. So your job as the entrepreneur, after you have all of your processes identified, is to find the right people to do them. And sometimes the right person may be good for one thing and not good for the other. Like admin work. Admin work is like sitting behind the computer, networking with your clients, correcting failed payments, inputting new contracts from sales, reaching out and posting in the group and tagging people in things. There's a lot of stuff that goes into administrative, like behind the laptop, admin, operation type stuff, right? A lot of coaches that I know would hate doing that. It is not in their wheelhouse. They want to be out on the floor. They want to be working. They want to be sweating. They want to be high energy, clapping, correcting form, analyzing macros. They want to do all of that. That they do not want to be behind a computer sending emails or tracking KPIs or metrics, right? So a great person, but in the wrong role. And it's the same thing vice versa. An admin person wants to look at spreadsheets. They want to track your churn. They want to have a column for the new signups, and they want to have a column for the people that quit, so they know how many members are continuing. They want to track how much each person is paying. Like, they love those kind of numbers. You put them in front of a group of people, in front of a class, they're like, dude, this is totally out of my comfort zone. Like, I do not want to do this. Get me out of here, right? And so again, the right person, but in the wrong process, in the wrong role. So your job is to surround yourself with team members that are the absolute best fit for that job and for your company's culture and mission, right? And so it might take time to do this, but when you find the right person, that will set you free. Okay. My operations manager, Andy, is a savage, right? He is amazing at what he does. My head trainer, Justin, is a savage. If I had to switch their roles, it wouldn't be good for my business, right? But it took me time to get them in that role, and it works out phenomenally. But that was my job to do that. I had to go out and get these guys, right? And I had to make sure I had the right people in my business to grow. Okay, so that's number 4. Number 3, know when to pivot. Okay, so number 3 is know when to pivot. Okay, I think it's extremely important to be adaptable and have your team be adaptable and have your business be adaptable, because things continually change in our industry all the time. If you think about it, the industry is not even that old. I mean, it really started gaining popularity in the 70s when people would start jogging and going to your gigantic Gold's Gym, right? Bodybuilding type stuff. Compared to other industries, that's only 50 years old, right? We're in 2020. I mean, that's not very long. And look at how much it's changed in that time frame. You used to have guys like Arnold going to Gold's Gym and just doing sets and reps, and then people jogging, and that was a new thing. To now they have the freaking mirror machines that go into on your wall and provide electronic resistance. I mean, it's crazy how much the fitness, we're talking about the fitness industry, how to get fit. I mean, there could be 10, 20 different brick and mortars in your city that all do it a different way, right? It didn't used to be like that at all 30, 40 years ago. So the point is, when you build a team, right, you want to make sure that that team is very adaptable and not very efficient. So that sounds weird. Like, I always thought I wanted an efficient team. No, an efficient team is very good at doing one thing, right? And they do that thing, whether, let's say it's a 6-week challenge, right? Imagine if I hired a team that was only very, very good at running the 6-week challenge. That was it, right? And I didn't teach them anything else, okay? And then the 6-week challenge stopped working. What the hell do I do with that team? You know, I could say, okay, guys, we need to pivot. We're going to start doing transformation programs. And they're like, but I don't know how to do that. I know how to do the weigh-in, the nutrition. I know how to do the halfway meeting. I know how to sell them into another longer challenge, and that's what I know how to do. Okay, I get it, but I need you to do this instead, but I don't know how to do that, right? That's not an adaptable team. Instead of having a team that's very good at doing one thing, you should hire a team that's pretty good at doing a lot of things, Do you know what I mean? That's the difference between having a team that's efficient and a team that's adaptable, right? And so I hire for the person that I know would be able to move quickly in different directions because they have an overall good skill set. They're smart. They're articulate. They understand the mission. They understand, and I teach them as much as I can. But your business always needs to be adaptable, and you need to know when to pivot, right? So that's number three. And what I mean by know when to pivot is do not continually try to do the same things if it's not working, right? And you need, as the entrepreneur, nobody else is going to make that decision for you. The staff, that's not their job. They're not going to be like, you know what, Joey, we need to switch what we're doing or we're not going to make it. Your staff never has that conversation with you. They're just going to follow you and they're just going to keep doing what you tell them to do. If it's not working, they're not going to take the initiative. Most times they're not going to take the initiative to tell you you're wrong, right? And that it's not working anymore. They're waiting for you to tell them we need to switch. That's your job. So as the entrepreneur, if you want to grow your business, continually grow and not hit these plateaus, right? You need to know when to pivot. You need to know when what you're doing isn't working anymore, and that is okay. Things change. The industry changes constantly, right? What's working right now could not work in a year from now. And it has nothing to do with you're not doing a good job at it. The market just adjusts. The market changes what they want, right? It's these trends. And these trends you have to stay with, right? And so the 6-week challenge is a great example of it, right? You could launch that thing 2 years ago, and on Facebook, your doors would be packed, right? With people that are like, hey, I just saw this brand new challenge thing. I really am interested in it. How do I do it? And you could sell the hell out of it, right? And try doing it right now. It's not going to work. Everyone's like, oh, I already know how that works. How much is the cost up front? I don't want to, it's not free, bait and switch, right? It's not going to work. But what if you just refuse to pivot? What if you're like, nope, it's going to come back. I know it. I feel it. It's going to come back. We're staying the course, guys. 2 years ago in 2018, I made $83,000 in a month, right? I'm staying the course. I'm going to continue doing that. You just don't know when to pivot. You don't know when it's time to change and move in a new direction. And so you have to be comfortable doing that if you want to continue to grow your business. Could you still get customers, running the 6-week challenge? Yeah, sure. I'm sure you could, right? But is it going to be what you expect? No, right? Does it mean that people no longer want to buy fitness? Absolutely not. But you have to change with what the market wants now, right? And so that's up for you to know. That's what FitBiz does, right? We know what the market wants, and that's what we do. But when it comes time to pivot, which it inevitably will become time to pivot, we will make that pivot. We will find what the market is interested in. We will give them that offer, and we will continue to grow businesses. Okay, so that's number 3. Do not be your own refusing to do change and, beating something that's completely dead, over and over again. You got to know when to move on to the next thing. Okay, number 2. Move fast once a decision has been made. So this kind of goes with the last one. I am a huge fan of speed. I would rather be going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction than 1 mile an hour in the right direction, right? Because you want to fail fast and you want to get back towards what's going to ultimately lead you to your goals and go hard, okay? I execute extremely fast, and the reason is because once I make a decision and I'm sure that is the right decision, and I don't make decisions fast. Let me back that up. I execute fast, but I don't make decisions fast. So I'm decisive, but I will think, pretty clearly, and everybody thinks for however long, right? But once I'm like, yep, that makes sense. I've analyzed the risks. I've analyzed the pros and the cons. I know what the downside is, right? Once you decide, you're like, this is what I want to do, this thing right here, then execute your ass off, because all you're going to do is convince yourself not to do it, right? And that's how shit doesn't get done. And our job is to get shit done, period, right? And so as an entrepreneur, execute fast, right? The longer it takes you to turn your thoughts into reality, the less power you have, right? And I think that one of the coolest things about being an entrepreneur is you control the amount of power. I always think that power is your ability to turn your thoughts into action, into reality, right? From the second you think of something to the second that it becomes, that it is real, right? That is your power. And so speed is extremely important, and get it done. There's no reason to waste time, right? Prioritize so you're working on the right stuff quickly. Don't be like, okay, I need to do this report. I'm going to do it as fast as I humanly can when you should be doing something else, right? But that has been one of the biggest friends of mine through growing different companies is speed of execution. It's always worked for me. I never regret it. I never say, well, I went too fast and messed something up. I learned, and I think I would have eventually messed that thing up. But at least I messed it up sooner so I could make the change that I needed to and then continually move in the right direction. So if you are somebody that hems and haws and you're very slow to do anything, you might just not be a natural entrepreneur, which is fine. You can probably still be successful in business, but it's why other people are passing you up. It's because you're sitting there thinking all day long. And when you make a decision and you're like, yeah, I think that's a good decision, right? But then you don't do anything with it. You're like, well, it is a good decision, but next month I'll revisit it. Why? You know what I mean? So that's number two. And the final one is own everything in your business. Everything. You need to take extreme ownership over every single thing in your business. Period. Sales aren't coming in, your fault. Team's not performing, your fault. Gym's dirty, your fault. All of it's your fault. If you pass the blame onto your team, or you start making excuses for why you're underperforming, that is the number one killer for all businesses, right? It is not your team's fault. It is never your team's fault, right? You hired them, you train them, you motivate them, you establish the goals, you establish how they reach those goals. You reward them when they're successful. You discipline them when they're not. It all comes down to you. You own everything. And the minute that you start giving yourself excuses, imagine that. So you don't what kind of message does that send to your team? You don't hit, like, let's say you have a sales goal, right? And you don't hit it, right? And you say to your team, well, guys, it's okay that we didn't hit our goals. There's been a lot of COVID going on, or there's been this or that. We'll get them next month. And you may think like, oh, that's justifiable, but you've opened the door and you've walked through it, right? For your team to accept excuses. Now, how much easier do you think it's going to be to continually give yourself and your team excuses for the next time you don't reach something? Oh, Eric was late, but that's okay because he got stuck behind a train, and that kind of things happen, right? Or, hey, so-and-so forgot his shirt, but hey, we all have laundry, right? And now all of a sudden you have created a culture that accepts excuses, right? You have created a culture that it's easy to pass the blame onto someone else, right? And that is the number one killer of any growth and scaling. Every successful entrepreneur that I've ever met or talked to, they exhibit extreme ownership over every single thing in their business, everything, right? And it is always your fault. It is always, because you have manifested all of it, not in the entire world, but in your business. That business is your own world. That is your own economy, right? You create all of the rules, right? You make all the rules. You set everything up. You place everything. You pay everybody. It is yours, right? And so if it's dirty, it's your fault. Why? Because maybe you didn't arrange the right cleaner, or maybe you're not holding them to expectations. Maybe you didn't explain to your coaches that they need to put things back after they're done. And if you did explain to them, maybe you didn't tell them what happens if they don't, right? Or you didn't incentivize them properly. Either way, however you look at it, it's your fault. It just is, right? And so I'm a huge fan of taking ownership over every single thing in your business. And by far, if you need to roll up your sleeves and you need to pick up the garbage, if you need to shovel, it doesn't matter if you have 20 employees. It doesn't matter. Have humility and do the job. You're not above anything. You're not above doing anything in your business, right? And so once you break that belief, or you understand that, I think it allows you to scale at a much higher level, because your team will see you, and it will be that much easier for them to follow you, right? And if they know that you've done it yourself, or you're willing to do it yourself, and all you're doing is asking them to do it, they will be much more able to do it versus if they're like, I'm not going to do that. He would never do that himself. Why should I have to do it? And imagine that kind of mentality from your team, right? And going back to number 4, you cannot scale without a team. You can't, right? So you need to exhibit ownership over everything. If you make bad decisions, that's your fault, and learn from it. If you decide not to work with, somebody that can help you, that's your fault, right? If you pick a bad program to advertise or whatever, that's your fault. But you can learn from it, and you can make anything bad that happens is your fault. But so is anything good, right? Any success that you have is also part of you owning it, right? The success comes with it. But that's the game that the entrepreneur plays. And if you don't want to play that game, if you like to make excuses and pass the blame, I would never blame somebody on my team for something that didn't go right. Right. I would use it as an opportunity to teach them, period. And how they can correct it for the next time. And I might ultimately identify that it's the wrong person or the wrong process, but it's not that person. It's not that person's fault, right? They might be in the wrong role, or they might not be the right person for that job. But anyways, so those are the top 5 things when it comes to scaling a business, and I would urge you to work on those if you are looking at growing a business. If you're comfortable with where you're at now, then keep doing what you're doing. But anyways, at 2:45, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully you learned some stuff. Hopefully I answered some good questions for you. And I look forward to doing another Q&A. Maybe it'll be a month or so before we do another Q&A, but I love answering questions that you guys have, and I appreciate everybody in this group. And I will talk to you guys next Monday at 2 p.m. Central.